For the first part of this workout, I had a lower back pump from hell, thanks to this exercise. So I came in with the intention of doing this exercise, the 45-degree hyper. I did 5 sets of 20, and by the second set, my lower back was lit. I was thinking to myself, do I do the last 3 sets? I really wanted to get five sets of 20. Somehow I got it, but I was on fire. And at that point, I thought, oh my God, I won't be able to do any decent numbers with the squatting at all. Went over to pin squats, and the first few sets was really, really bad. Like, I was really struggling. The pump was just unreal. Usually the pin squats give me these pumps themselves, but this time around I had the pump before even doing the pin squat, so it was doubly bad. But then something interesting happened towards the, I think, 3rd or 4th plate. The lower back pump started going away. So that was really, really interesting. The lower back started going away, and I was able to hit, I think, 290 kilos on the pin squats today for one. And then I backed off and I did 240 for a set of 10. So that tells me that I felt good. Like, when I think about those numbers, it tells me that I felt pretty good. Like, if my lower back was that pumped like it was from the start of this exercise here, I wouldn't be able to even touch like 150, 160 or anything like that. Like, I wouldn't be pushing it, put it that way. So anyway, the pin squats sorted me out, and then I went to back squatting, and I ran out of plates, really. There was a whole bunch of people deadlifting and using the blue plates, the 20 kilos. So then I went up to 190 kilos because I used a 15 kilo and a 10 kilo. And that was a portion of the squatting. I was just so fatigued from the posterior chain, from the pin squats and the back extensions. And so I just left it there. I really wanted to do front squats today as well, but it was just way too much. I've got this focus now. I've been thinking about, ever since making this yesterday's video, I've been thinking about lower back training. I've been thinking about how to incorporate it. And a lot of you guys have said the same thing I've been thinking about, and that's, the Chinese weightlifters, those training hall videos that we all have kind of watched. A lot of those guys spend a lot of time doing this stuff. Back extensions, GHDs. They get up with the 90-degree GHD. They get up and they hold that position. I've seen people kind of not even have the equipment. They just like pile up a bunch of plates, and they have somebody like a trainer hold their legs in place, and they're kind of like just holding like a plank, basically. Their upper body's kind of hanging off, and somebody's holding their legs, and they're just holding that position. So I think with weightlifting especially, even though the lower back muscles, the erectors, are not supposed to be movers, they're supposed to be just isometrically holding positions. I think in weightlifting especially, there's a lot of force going through the lower back because they're trying to accelerate that bar, they're trying to catch the bar in awkward positions. So this is why they spend a lot of their time in kind of bulletproofing the lower back. So, the top do it, so why shouldn't I do it? So kind of around those ideas, I decided to come in today and do this back extensions. I think a lot of you guys have actually said, no, a few of you guys have said that Bradley Martin video where he had Dmitry Klokov on the video. And Dmitry was basically telling him that every single session that he comes in, he basically starts the session with either a GHD or a hype or something like that, and he just kind of like puts blood into the whole posterior chain, hamstrings, glutes, erectors, all that stuff. And the way he does it, and the way I used to do my home GHD little setup that I did a few months ago, was put a broomstick initially and then a barbell on my back, and like really kind of have it in the same position as you would in a back squat, high bar back squat. Really kind of like, extend your thoracic spine, all of that stuff. So it ends up being like a freaking posterior chain workout from hell. So I did that probably 3-4 months ago now. One of you guys asked me, why did you let this go? Why did you come in, do it, and then, let it go? What was the thing that made you let it go? The way I explained it to that fella was, at that time I was in a crisis point. My hip pain was bothering me. And I was basically searching all sorts of different exercises, trying everything to see what would help my hip pain. At that point, I thought it was glutes, I thought it was hamstrings, I thought it was all that stuff. So I thought that exercise was the thing. And for a little while, it kind of made me feel all right. But then the hip pain came back with vengeance. And at that point, I basically said to myself, okay, I'm not going to do anything that I don't think is going to help me. And so basically, I was just rotating exercises on and on to basically look for something that was going to help me with the back pain, with the hip pain. That's why I let it go, because it wasn't a priority at the time. Now, I'm not doing it for my right hip pain. The hip pain is not an issue anymore, so I'm using it for a different purpose. The purpose is to strengthen my lower back. I'm not doing it for the hip at all. So I'm kind of back at it again. I want to do it every single day. I want to do it kind of like a 5 sets of 20 type deal. I don't think, I hope not. I don't think it's a really expensive exercise in terms of recovery points. I think it's easier because there's no spinal loading. There's not, any of that stuff. But I'll see how I pull up yesterday. I did have a bit of a hamstring pump when I was doing this, so I'm expecting my hamstrings to be sore. For me, man, hamstrings are like nothing else. For me, hamstrings just give me the most amount of DOMs. And we've spoken about this in the comments, why that is. It's got nothing to do with an effective workout. It's just muscles tend to get most sore when you have like a weighted eccentric kind of elongation of the muscle. So if there's like a weighted stretch component to that muscle, that kind of makes the most amount of damage, if you will, and disruption to the muscle. So this is why, for me, hamstrings are notorious for DOMs. So I don't know. We'll see how I pull up tomorrow, but I hope to come in again and do some more back extensions. The back bumps are uncomfortable, I have to say. I thought, man, am I really that unfit in my lower back that I can't take 5 sets of 20 body weight hyperextensions? I mean, that can't be good, right? Like, you guys have spoken. I've spoken to you guys about, searching for weaknesses and ironing them out. But Jesus Christ, if I'm expected to squat 220 in the next month or so, or whenever the period is that I squat 220, I can't have a lower back that weak. Is my lower back that weak? I'm not sure. Maybe this is just a novel exercise to my body, and that's why I'm kind of hurting. 20 reps is high, but I would expect that I'll be a bit more fitter in the posterior chain. So I think there's value there just doing that for the sake of ironing out that weakness. I'm going to come in tomorrow. I don't know how I'm going to approach tomorrow, whether I'm going to do pin squats again or not. Maybe a little bit lighter session pin squats. That's also a focus of mine. So I'm going to go in tomorrow, do some back extensions, maybe do some pin squats to a lighter kind of intensity, and then focus on back squats and front squats tomorrow. That's kind of on the menu. There's also an issue of my psoas curls. I don't know when to plug them in. Today I thought, I wonder if I'm gonna have that lower back pump, if I do psoas curls before the back extensions, because for me, the pin squats will kind of half sorted out with these psoas curls. So anytime I got, a back pump, psoas curls will kind of just like sort that out. So I'm wondering whether I should come in tomorrow, do some psoas curls, move over to back extensions, then do pins, then do back, then do front squats. I know it's a lot of exercises, and this is one of my fears about continuously adding exercises. And I have like a freaking exercise selection of West Side, 100 freaking exercises. I don't want that. But that's kind of how things go when you're kind of trying to iron out all these different things. One leads to another, and then all of a sudden you got like 50 exercises that you're doing, and it's kind of like a cascade of these exercises which feed off each other. So I don't know. I mean, I still want to do front squats, but likely tomorrow, by the time I get to the front squats, I'm going to be freaking, exhausted. So that's kind of in my head. I want to juggle all these things at once. Today I did bench press instead of front squats. Tomorrow I'm going to do front squats and see how I go. I think that core relationship between the front and back needs to be balanced. I do a lot of squatting, so I need to do a lot of psoas work to kind of balance that out. But today the pin squats felt really, really good. So I'm wondering whether the back extensions did something to me before that. Once again, the interesting thing for me is that crazy ass back pump that I got from the back extensions was sorted out by the pin squats, and usually it's the other way around. Usually the pin squats cause me a pump. So it's something's happening there. Something's interesting happening there. But basically, there's a frequent flyer here. There's a recurring pattern here, and that's my lower back is an issue. I feel I don't want to be getting these freaking back pumps. So there's some sort of imbalance somewhere. I know the psoas curls makes me feel good. So I have to continue doing that. So yeah, a few things to think about. I'm still not 100% sure how to attack all this. But when you look at these pros, when you look at all these weightlifters from the top, they do a lot of these back extensions. One other thing that I thought about was actually doing these back extensions at the end of the workout, which is probably a smarter thing. But with all these things, when I plug in exercises, I want to do them first and see the effect of them on my workout, how my body kind of changes. And I liked how squatting felt after the back pump kind of subsided. I really liked that my posterior chain was lit, ready, pumped, and my squatting felt really, really good. Despite the pin squats, fatigue, and all that sort of stuff. So I like that, how that feels. I'm just thinking now whether I should come in tomorrow, do back squats, do the back extensions, then do back squats. Lots of things to think about, lots of different ways to kind of cook this recipe, if you will. But you guys know me, I'm going to experiment this. I'm going to try and work out the best formation on my team here of exercises. That's the thing, there's so many freaking variables when it comes to training. You can have the same freaking exercises written down on a piece of paper, but 10 different guys will attack that 10 different ways. And I think it's an important thing to consider the order of exercises. I think some exercises feed other exercises, and if you reverse that order, you're going to take away from each exercise. So it's interesting. I've heard, the old timers always say, do your weakness first. Do the weakest part first. So in the bodybuilding world, if you have, weak biceps, do the biceps first before the other stuff that you do, like back and whatever. So it's like pre-exhausting kind of principle, like calves as well. People usually, tuck their calf workouts right at the end of the workout, but then they complain about how the calves don't grow. Well, if you think it's a priority, man, why don't you, plug that thing in right at the start? Plug it in right at the start when you're the freshest and your central nervous system is the freshest. Do it at the start, and then all the other stuff you can do after. So that, there's a component of that, and that kind of makes me want to do the back extensions first, because clearly, if I did back extensions after the pin squats, back squats, bench press, I'll be half-assing them, basically. Number one, it's a weak area, and number two, I'm freaking exhausted for the weak area. So, it's one of those things. So, a few things to think about. I'm going to continue to play with it. But I've got a couple of things in my mind running right now. The psoas curls definitely are a keeper. The back extensions kind of are on the table right now. I'm dissecting that exercise, how that kind of, makes me feel, how I progress in the next few days. All I know is that I kind of have an exercise like this just burn me up. I mean, that's crazy. After all of this, I went to the bench press and I did my Bilbo sets. So I worked up to 120 kilos. I didn't show any of that. It was a busy kind of gym, and I didn't want to put these cameras everywhere and trip people up. And bench press is kind of awkward to record, especially in this gym, because this gym is always packed out. This was like a 6 p.m. session or 5:30 p.m. session, so peak hour. I worked up to 120 for a nice single, stripped the bar back to 60 kilos, did 35 reps there. And then I did 5x5 or 100 kilos. So I haven't been showing a lot of my bench pressing. I haven't been talking about about the bench pressing, but these Bilbo sets are working. I have to say they're working. I'm feeling really healthy through my shoulders, despite not doing any pulling, face pulling, lat pull downs, pull ups, rows, anything like that. I haven't been doing any of that, but I think these high rep sets, the Bilbo sets, are doing me really good. My shoulders are feeling really good. Usually, when I, back in the day, I remember when I would kind of have heavy blocks of bench pressing, doing triples, fives and whatnot, I would always get that, upper back knot pop up. I mean, I had so many of those over my time. Like I think it's the rhomboid or like one of the trap muscles that would just kind of knot up and it would just debilitate me, man. But these Bilbo sets have not caused any of that. Like my whole upper back feels good, everything feels good, and I think the front squats have something to do with that, because I always get DOMs in my traps when I do front squats. It's kind of like a weird kind of combination, front squats and bench press, and they kind of feed off each other really well. But I'm feeling really good, and I did 5 sets of 5 at 100 kilos today, which is a progress, definitely. I could have probably done more, but I'm seeing my capacity, my resilience for fatigue on the bench press with relatively heavy weight for me improving. So these are the signs that I had when I benched 140 kilos last year, these were some of the signs that I had, like the push-ups, the grease in the groove push-ups that I was doing was making me feel resilient to kind of these 80%, 85% sets. And that's kind of what led me to push that 140 times 1. So I think I'm on the right track with bench press. It's a nice little setup that I've got here. If you haven't tried a couple of weeks of Bilbo sets, try them, man. There's something to this high rep business. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Peace out.